Thank you so much for joining us on CGTN, Ms. Mercy. So first of all, tell us, how critical is the humanitarian situation in the eastern DRC?
Thank you for having me. The situation in the eastern DRC, unfortunately, remains quite desperate. The volunteers in Goma report 900 bodies still lying in the morgue, waiting to be buried. And the search and recovery of bodies around the lake still goes on. There is a desperate need among people that have been displaced within and around Goma for food and non-food items. People who are arriving in the displaced settlements around Goma do not have tents or shelter over their heads. They don't have equipment for them to get by. The M23, on taking Goma, declared the settlements invalid, and in fact asked displaced persons to leave and go to their homes. So we have camps that have been vacated, and we have others that are overcrowded, especially by the people that are arriving from South Kivu, the areas of Minova, and they are reaching without anything. They need saucepans, sheets, tents, everything that you can think about. They do not have food, obviously, after long travels. Many of these people have been displaced over and over. Some of them report having been displaced 8 times within the past year. Medical supplies in the health facilities are insufficient. They are totally overwhelmed. Our colleagues, IFRC and the UN partners who are running hospitals report being overwhelmed. So there is urgent need to supply medicines and medical supplies. And you can imagine in such a situation where people have been displaced over and over, there have been lots of gunshots and gunfires. Recently, there's a lot of trauma, so there's need for psychosocial support.
What do you think is hindering aid agencies from delivering relief items?
The big hindrance at the moment is the access into Goma. As I mentioned, the airport is not yet open, and therefore it's difficult to bring in stocks. Many organizations lost their stocks to looting and have not been able to replenish. And unfortunately, the looted stocks do not go to the most vulnerable people. So our advocacy right now is that we are granted access. The EU and many partners want to bring in an air bridge to bring in the supplies that are required, but unfortunately it is not possible to get into Goma at the moment. Of course, with the many militants and military groups moving around, there is a real security threat to humanitarians. 2 days ago, 3 humanitarians were shot dead in areas neighboring Goma, and this is a real threat to others, and it is hindering movement.
Ms. Mercy, so how can these obstacles to aid and relief be eliminated?
One way of eliminating this is humanitarian diplomacy, negotiating for a peaceful end to the fighting in eastern DRC. It has been going on for a while, and as you might have followed, it also takes a geopolitical angle to the extent that this conflict can be ended in an amicable manner to stop the suffering that we see. I think that would go a long way. At the moment, immediately, there is need to continue advocating to the new authorities within Goma and the neighboring provinces to allow access to humanitarians, to respect the international humanitarian law and not harm civilians or humanitarian workers who are guided by the humanitarian principles. In my conversation recently with women in Goma, many of them are just looking to have a normal life. They are just looking to have food, to have basic requirements for their children. They do not know who is in charge or who is fighting or what resources there are around them. They are looking to have a normal life like all of us. And it is my plea to everybody to look at the suffering that the individual women, children, and men in Eastern DRC have been going through for years.